Accessing library computer data.
Out there are no saints. Just people.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the show. Continuing our run-through of Star Trek Deep Space Nine. Right now we're up to the episode called Empok Nor. It is the 24th episode of the 5th season. Aired on May 19th, 1997. Teleplay goes to Hans Beimler. Story credit goes to Bryan Fuller. Directed by Mike Vehar. In this episode, while scavenging an abandoned Cardassian space station identical to DS9 for equipment, O'Brien's team discovers that the station may not be completely abandoned. We're joined by Clay. Clay, how are you?
I am good. I have never identified with a Star Trek character right now as much as I identified with Quark at the beginning of this episode.
Just with you want to explain? We're doing a little bit of a improv recording session right now. Late at night, I'm in the bedroom on a tablet, not doing anything horrible, but do you want to explain why that is?
Yeah, my house is currently getting re-sided, and they just decided, without really any prompting, decided to start doing all of that outside my head. Just on the level that our unit's at. So the last couple of days I've been waking up to intense hammering and buzzsawing right outside my window. I actually had to leave the house today because it was giving me like an anxiety attack. So so I was like, oh, is this whole episode going to be about the space station being under construction? Because 5 stars right away for that one.
Did you have to go to like an identical condo across the street and pull out a part that you needed to reside the house with or anything?
Yeah, and I murdered everybody who was in it.
We're going to be talking about Empok Nor. It is the penultimate episode of the 5th season of Star Trek DS9. It talks about O'Brien, talks about Garak, it talks about being alone in a very dark place. So we're going to take a break. I'm going to play an audio clip, and we're going to come back and we're going to break down Empok Nor.
A runabout doesn't disengage from its docking clamps and blow up all on its own.
Which leads me to believe that the former occupants of these chambers are up and about.
If you're telling me that there are 2 Cardassian soldiers from the 3rd Battalion loose on this station, we're in trouble. Death to all. That was their motto.
3 simple words. And they certainly sum up their credo nicely.
All right, Clay. So as a horror aficionado, I think that this episode is probably right up your alley. You probably really enjoyed it. You enjoy slasher films. This is Star Trek takes on the slasher genre. So do you think it succeeded as a slasher piece of art?
Well, before I answer that, I have a question. Do any of the things that happened in this episode come back in the future at all? Like, does Garak have to deal with anything that he's done here or anything like that?
Empok Nor comes back in the future.
Okay. But not like, but what I'm getting at is, unless this is an episode that I should have really liked, but I honestly only thought it was okay. Mainly because I ultimately thought it didn't really mean anything.
Yeah.
Like I didn't think what ultimately ended up happening to Garak really gave me any new insight to his character or anything like that. And O'Brien, you know, they try to set up this thing where they're kind of yapping back and forth about killing Cardassians and all this kind of shit, implying that O'Brien wishes he could kill people or something. But I don't know. It just didn't really land. I thought the horror type stuff was pretty good. Even that was kind of lessened by the fact that it was just whacked out, drugged up Cardassians and not something else like more malevolent or you know, unknown. But yeah, I don't know. I thought it was fine. It didn't blow me away. I thought the dark station looked cool. I was really shocked that they just killed all of those people. I was not expecting everyone to die. But yeah, I don't know. It's only okay for me.
I'm kind of pulling your chain. I thought that maybe because it was a slasher, you might have enjoyed a little bit of it. I think it's actually a subpar episode.
Oh, I'm sorry that I'm more than just one dimension of Star Trek watcher, Wes. I take in I've been to the opera. I've listened to ballet.
I've watched the latest Game of Thrones. I think it's
When I say listen to ballet, I mean I've been to the ballet and have fallen asleep.
I think it's actually kind of a subpar episode. I think
Yeah.
it's one of those things where they tried to do a genre thing and it doesn't really work within the confines of Star Trek and what we'd be expecting. So to answer your direct question, outside of, I think Nog brings up what happened on this in a couple episodes from now, but outside of that, nothing here has any ramifications for anything.
Okay.
Empok Nor.
In that case, then I did not really care for it.
Yeah. I mean, so I guess that's a good place as any to start. Like there's always a frequent criticism in these shows that, if you know that you have characters who cannot die because they're series regulars, it really takes away a lot of the drama of some of these episodes. I've probably said that before too. And the more I think about it, the more I don't really know if that's true across the board as much as it's a bad setup that your writing has. Because I think you can put characters like this in a situation and have it work out where it feels stressful. And even knowing the fact that they aren't going to die could lead to something. But this to me feels like an episode that would be the common criticism of what's going on. But I feel it's more just that the episode itself feels like it's trying to do 3 different themes and none of them are really working very well. Like you brought up the O'Brien as a soldier sparring with Garak. Like that feels like it should kind of be something. You brought up the, trying to be a slasher. It's trying to be a slasher movie and it's not particularly good at being a slasher movie. Maybe because Garak, I don't think is a very effective villain the way that they set him up here, but they have to set him up this way because we know who Garak is. So he needs this like influence on him. It's kind of a funny episode because like, I sort of enjoy watching it in the sense that the time flew by while I was watching it, but I don't think it's very good. And I think it fails at a whole bunch of stuff that it tries to do, and it's a potpourri episode that doesn't really stick the landing on anything that it's trying to accomplish.
Yeah, I think you can. I think saying that putting characters aren't going to die in a life-threatening situation, it doesn't not work because the characters don't die. It usually doesn't work because that ends up being the only thing that's going on. And in an episode like this, that's how I felt. That's what I felt. I felt like that the people getting picked off was the only real threat or the only real thing that they were working towards. Like you can do that with O'Brien, a character who isn't going to die. If at the end, if he comes out on the other end having learned something or changed in some way or something like that, where it's bigger than just, oh good, he dodged a bullet.
Right.
Which I don't think they really do here. Like you said, I think they're trying to do that. They gave it a shot anyway of trying to do something, but ultimately it just feels really hollow because, none of the things that they bring up with Garak or O'Brien resonate at all, or even are followed through on. Like it's not like this is the culmination of constant sparring that we've seen for many episodes between O'Brien and Garak. It's just something that comes up in this episode because they need it to.
Right. Yeah.
And I don't even know if I've ever heard O'Brien be exceptionally shitty towards Cardassians.
Oh,
like the way Garak talks about it, it's like he just hates them and just talks shit about them all the time.
No, that's a character beat on O'Brien. He's the racist of the cast. Yeah, he hates Cardassians. Yep.
I guess I just forget. I guess it doesn't happen often enough that it really sticks with me. Do they ever talk about him previously being like a soldier who's been fighting them or anything?
Yep. So that goes back all the way to TNG.
Oh, all right. Well, I guess I just don't pay attention then.
This battle that they keep talking about, Setlik 3, is something that's been a character beat of O'Brien since TNG's days. Like we've never seen it or anything, but he talks about it all the time. We never really know what happened there. And
okay, well, in this case, seeing as that I don't remember that, and I'm going to say most of the people who watched this at the time probably didn't remember that.
Sure.
I feel like what's missing is O'Brien never clicks into that mode of thinking. Is there a scene where he does that and I'm just not remembering?
No,
like,
I don't
Is there
think...
ever a scene where he's like, fucking Kardashian, like he just loses it?
Right, and grabs the assault rifle or whatever. Yeah.
Well, or just like makes that point of view that he has known and and expresses that as something that he actually is dealing with and not just something other people are saying he has.
Right. So I think that's when I say that the episode is kind of a failure because it's mashing up all of these things, I think you had two paths that you could have gone for this episode. You could have whole hog embraced the slasher element and gone with that, or you have to make it about O'Brien realizing that he's a changed man and that no matter how much Garak is trying to push his buttons, he's no longer the soldier that he used to be.
Yeah.
And that's what the episode is saying about O'Brien, I feel like. But I 100% agree with you that he never reverts back to that old form. And because Garak's under the influence of this virus or whatever, and that's causing him to act a little bit strangely, it doesn't resonate as any character drama worth anything because Garak's under the influence of something. And that even takes away from the ending, which the ending I think is supposed to be like reflective on this, but I don't feel any, Garak's like, please apologize to the widow of that man that I murdered back there. But it's kind of like the episode doesn't really care because the whole reason that Garak is allowed to do this is because it's not really Garak who's doing it. So you're kind of confused. And you don't know where to end up with it.
And also that last scene doesn't really land because I think they're trying to, the way that O'Brien, when he's like, you broke some ribs. And he was like, yeah, if I was a couple inches closer, that thing would have killed me. And then O'Brien's like, well, you should know that was my intention. Mm-hmm. Like that doesn't land either because I think they were trying to go for one of those sort of ambiguous, gray zone endings. And it just doesn't land because it's, I didn't feel any of that stuff really is followed through very well to get to the point where at the end you could, make that statement and have it stick,
Yeah, there's I feel like the ending is missing a beat where engineers are looking at the scene of what O'Brien did, and it's like it's characters that we don't know, and they're kind of analyzing the explosion that O'Brien set off, and they bring up the point of something like O'Brien could have just set it to like stun him or something, but it was set to kill Garak, and then you're kind of like, I wonder what O'Brien was thinking there, but that never comes across. And it's like you say, if O'Brien never has to really work through his problems, because the episode spends the entire time that he should be working through his problems trying to pass itself off as like a C- slasher film, then you're just kind of wasting your time because if you want to go the slasher route, I think you have to do a better job of this. And what's funny is I don't know if you remember, there's the episode Armageddon Rising, which is the first episode of season 5, which is the Klingon one where we were talking about how if the show was remade in high def, that would be like one of the best episodes to get something out of it because the Klingon sets are so muddy and shitty looking. This is the second episode I would remaster and I think would add a lot to it. I have a hard time seeing what's going on in this episode, actually. And it's
pretty dark. Yeah.
It's pretty dark, and it makes sense in what they're trying to do.
What is this? The Battle of Winterfell? Heyo!
2 weeks in a row. 2 weeks in a row.
Turn up the brightness on your TV, everybody.
It was shot for film. You know what I mean? Like I think that if it was even a passable slasher, I would say that you don't need the O'Brien thing. But I feel like the O'Brien thing is more in line with what DS9 and Star Trek would be interested in doing. And even if I think it's a mistake that they went so far in that route without really fully embracing it, it would probably still turn out better than the slasher stuff that they had going here. Because I think there's only really one scene in the entire slasher run that I think is effective. It's when the two Cardassian soldiers who are there kill the security guards or whatever. Like one of them smashes through glass and the other one gets thrown off the balcony. That was I thought those were fairly effective jump scares, but you can't really build 40 minutes of TV around that, I don't think.
That, when the blue guy gets like his head stomped in, that was pretty, I was surprised at that one because that one was fairly brutal.
Yeah.
It's just like, I can't remember which movie he says it in. I think it might be in 6. I don't remember, but it's like if you've got that thread that they had for Captain Kirk where after they kill his son, where he hates Klingons, And he's got that one thing that they get on tape where he's like, I hate Klingons. I hate everything about them. If it was up to me, I would kill every last one of them or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like if you have a bunch of people say to Kirk, remember how much you hate Klingons, but you never hear him say that other thing. Where it's just like, okay, so people are saying that he hates Klingons, and he's just kind of going like, whatever. I don't really mind them. And you never get that beat where it's like, oh shit, he really does hate Klingons. Because that way, at least the battle between them at the end would have of O'Brien and Garak would have a little bit more, edge to it. I think they just don't know what they want O'Brien's point of view here to be, because he's not. I mean, I guess he is trying to talk him down, but if he's trying to talk him down, then why is he trying to kill him? Mm-hmm. They're kind of waffly about what they want O'Brien's angle to be here, and I think that's what ends up ultimately just really, really hurting it.
Well, so I guess I'm kind of interested. Why, if you have any sort of thoughts about it, why do you think that, if I were to tell you that Kira was a terrorist, I don't think it would come to a surprise to you, but apparently learning that O'Brien had fought in Cardassian fights is kind of a surprise. So do you think it's just it's not a character beat that's strong enough where you really feel like it resonates with O'Brien? I always think that the problem with O'Brien is that his Klingon or his Cardassian war stories have always just been tell and don't show. Like, you don't really ever get any history of it. And at least with Kira, you get flashbacks every once in a while. And she's living on the slave labor station that imprisoned her for a while. So you have this like real tangible sense of what it means to be Kira as a terrorist or a freedom fighter or whatever. O'Brien feels like he's kind of just making up stories about things. And it never feels like it really lands or, You never believe O'Brien in the way that you believe Kira, and I think it's a problem.
Yeah, I've seen interviews with plenty of like soldiers from World War II who weren't like those fucking Nazis. I would just every German I saw, I just wanted to fucking kill him. Right. You can have people tell war stories about being a soldier without without assuming that they actively hate the race whom they are fighting.
Right. Yeah.
And the way, O'Brien's war stories, I'm gonna assume, and based off what you just said, because I can't remember any of them, are all just feel like, oh, he's just telling another war story. Whereas Kira is, she's living it. It's constantly coming back. Every day she's on Deep Space Nine is a remembrance of the fight that she was part of, and it's built into her character. Whereas for O'Brien, it's just sort of like, he was also in the war, and, if he gets a couple drinks in him, he'll call Cardassians the Q word or something. Yeah.
Well, it's funny because I
don't know what the Q word is. I just picked a letter.
Calls them spoonheads. I like what I like about the episode is I like his thing about I'm no longer a soldier, I'm an engineer, and he uses that to get Garak at the end. Like, I think that's a good moment that was really building, that was a good ending to what could have been a building story throughout the entire episode. And they really don't like it.
And I was just going to say, and they undercut that too, because you could follow that through in that final scene where Garak was like, where O'Brien goes the other way, and Garak says something about, I was going to kill Nog. I was going to do it. You should have killed me. And he's like, well, that's not what I do. That kind of thing.
Right. Yeah.
Where he follows through on this mindset change that he's not a soldier, he's an engineer, and he's not about, killing people anymore or whatever. But they muddy it up by having him do that thing at the end where he says, I'm an engineer. And then at the end, he's like, also, P.S., I would have totally fucking killed you if I had a chance.
I'm an engineer of death, motherfucker.
It's like if in Star Wars at the end, when the Emperor, is goading on Luke Skywalker and then he throws his lightsaber down, he just then pulls out a blaster and shoots Palpatine in the face.
I think, we've talked a lot about O'Brien's problems with the episode, actually, and I think that, pairing him with the soldier thing is not really the best choice that they could have done. I think an actual bigger problem, and I think a better way to make either the O'Brien war story and the slasher aspect, is that I think Garak is really misused here as a villain. The whole reason I think that you descend Garak to this, they make it the point in the episode that's because he's Cardassian and he's able to get past all the booby traps. My understanding of Garak would be that Garak as a slasher villain in this should be more along the lines of like, not Saw or something, but there should be a more clever aspect to the way that he's offing people, because he's a spy. You know, he's like a deadly assassin spy for the CIA of Cardassia. So why is he just kind of running around shanking people? You know what I mean? Like, shouldn't he be setting traps for them? And they'd be like, oh, this like, it's a side of Garak we've never seen. Like, imagine if this was what he was like when he was, you know, under the brutal occupation. These are the kind of spies that they have running around doing these horrible things to people. And instead, he's just kind of leaping around in the shadows, and it comes across as kind of goofy.
Yeah, I mean, I guess there's only one person left for him to kill at the time where he gets, you know, infected by the
That's a point too. He gets sick too late in the episode, I think.
Yeah. I mean, I guess you kind of have to make a decision when you're going to do this, where it's like, well, do we want to make him completely irredeemable? Because if we don't mind, then yeah, we infect him right away and he kills 5 people.
Right. Yeah.
But if you want to make him evil but still redeemable, maybe he only kills 1 guy. So yeah, he gets sick too late. Do you think it would work without Garak? Like if it was just, do you think it would almost be more impactful if it was just a random Cardassian that O'Brien was fighting?
I would have been fine with that too. If it was, I don't think there needed to be 2 of them. I would have been fine with just 1, and they could make a mention of him being an Obsidian Order agent, the same as Garak or something like that. And I would have been totally okay with that.
Yeah, because then you can focus on O'Brien's mindset, because I think the problem here is that Garak under the influence of that drug is not like, I don't know. Do you feel like him being under the influence of the drug is swaying him emotionally or anything? Like I know after he gets infected, he kills that guy and he's like, "Ooh, that felt good." Yeah. But like I don't know if it's explicitly supposed to be like awakening the old Garak kind of thing, you know, because they don't really talk about that afterwards. They
say it awakens the latent xenophobia of Cardassians, which is kind of a funny way to say it. So, but I don't, infected Garak to me is not Garak at all. You know what I mean? Like it's not unleashing the inner personality or uninhibiting him, and he's just living out his true fantasies. He's basically just become a crazy slasher villain in this.
Right. Yeah, and because Garak would never, I assume, he would never kill without a purpose, you know?
Right.
So, like, I don't think that, you know, he has some dark story where he was like, I walked into that Bajoran orphanage and I killed every child in there just because they had bumps on their foreheads or whatever, you know? Mm-hmm. So I think if they had stuck with just a random Cardassian who was this embodiment of, who is the embodiment of everything that O'Brien hates about them. He's this, you know, he himself is this Cardassian himself is a xenophobic murderer, which is, he basically becomes the propaganda poster against the Cardassian, right?
Right.
So, you know, then you could focus on O'Brien's point of view and the way he thinks about the Cardassians, and then ultimately have him choose not to give into that and just fucking kill this guy. Right. Because, you know, because you can even go through that thing where it's like they figure out what it is. It's like, this is not just how this person is. He's under the influence of a drug. This is not him. This is not his mindset. And so O'Brien's like, I don't care. He's killing my people. I'm going to kill him. And then Garak or whoever could be like, no, you don't understand. He's as innocent as we are, blah, blah, blah. You know, he's a casualty of war, just like anybody else is. Mm-hmm. And then, you know, it comes to the point at the end where O'Brien has to make a decision, and he chooses to just stun the guy instead of fucking actually, like, kill him, you know?
Yeah. No, I'd agree, and I think that
I wish at the end when he said, I'm an engineer, he had started, like, doing like a Lego movie thing where he's just grabbing pieces all around him and builds like a little ladder that helps him escape.
He builds like the loader suit from Aliens or something like that, and is just walking around in it. Crushes Garak.
And Garak's just watching him going like, "What are you doing?" And he's like, "Oh, you will see in a second, sir."
Yeah, it's the things that I do like about it are kind of the like I do think Star Trek, as we mentioned before, is a genre show that can pull off these kinds of like tropey things where they can do different styles of shows. And, I like watching, it's the DS9 set. They call it Empok Nor, but it is the DS9 set. And it's just, it's shrouded in darkness. I like even though it makes no sense because there is no up or down in space, I like the tiltedness of the station when they approach it. Like it's sort of just off its axis and it looks weird. And, I think that they have some good horror shots in this. It's just, I personally think that this was an episode that they should have just embraced the slasher aspect of it. And I don't really care about the O'Brien thing. I think the O'Brien thing is a bigger problem than just going down the horror road and like crazy Cardassian going around on the station killing people. I don't know how good it would have been either way, but I think that they kind of met in this mid-ground that is like, yeah, who cares? Either way, like this is an O'Brien story for whatever. I'm never going to think of this as a great O'Brien story. I'm never going to think of this as a great genre piece that they did. And it's kind of unfortunate because I think that it looks good for what they were trying to do. Like I think that the set that they're trying to use here and the lighting and everything looks nice. And it's too bad that they didn't really pull anything off with it. And also, when you had mentioned it's not a like a mysterious force or like an evil, malevolent force or anything like that. When it is just Cardassians, you kind of walk away going, why were the Cardassians just there? Like, what was the point of leaving those two guys on this station? Is it just to kill people who come onto the station? Why don't they blow up the station at that point? Like, why?
Yeah, that was a weird kind of contrived plot thing where they were like, yes, whenever Cardassians leave a building, they always booby trap it. It's like, okay, or they could blow it up, but they just choose to be they choose to be clever and dickheads about it, I guess.
Yeah. It doesn't make any. It's such a. Do you think it would be such a valuable thing? Yeah, they just booby trap it, walk away, and apparently the booby traps can be gotten around by Cardassians. It like triggers with non-Cardassians.
Well, I wasn't sure. Do you think that the ones who were in stasis were left there on purpose?
I think so. I think that's part of the trap.
Okay.
Yeah.
I guess I didn't consider that. I just assumed they were like Condassians, I guess you could say. Like they were just happened to be stuck there in stasis. But yeah, I guess it would make sense. I wish they had kept it as a random Cardassian, and I wish that they had used Garak as basically like Colonel Troutman in Rambo, essentially, where Colonel Troutman's entire point of being in Rambo movies is to tell other people about how fucked they are dealing with Rambo, essentially.
Yeah.
And be like, you have no idea what this man's been through. He's killed more, VC than you blah, 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 that kind of shit. And
Rambo only listens to him. He's the character that Rambo can talk to. Yeah.
I wish they had used Garak in that capacity where, like, once they figure out what's going on, Garak understands what's going on and is like, you guys are fucked.
Right.
This is why I recognize this. I know what this drug does. This guy is not going to stop until he kills all of us. That kind of thing. Cause yeah, I think making him infected and, then having this weird showdown at the end is, cause where it all falls apart. It's not that one character is unkillable. The climax of the show involves 3 characters who are unkillable because they're not going to kill Nog.
And one of them's holding O'Brien, and one of them's holding a gun to the other one's head in a key moment of this.
Yeah. It's like in the early days of The Walking Dead, it always pissed me off because like every scene ended with everybody pulling guns on each other, and it's like these people aren't going to shoot each other. This is not actually adding drama to anything. Because it's just, these are all of these characters' names are in the opening credits, and it's the 3rd episode.
Right.
And it's the same kind of thing. So you've got empty drama based on just a, kill or be killed situation, and it's going to turn out that no one is killed and everyone survives.
Right.
So there's nothing else really, nothing meaty that is supporting that.
I'd agree. Let's take a break. We're going to play an audio clip. Mm-hmm. We're going to come back. We're going to give our final thoughts and read some Patron thoughts about Empok Nor.
Chief, I was hoping to ask a favor.
Don't worry. Once they know the facts...
It's not about that. I'd like you to express my deepest regrets to Amaro's wife. I'd talk to her myself, but I'm not sure she'd welcome that.
I'll tell her.
I'd appreciate it.
Julian tells me the blast broke a couple of your ribs.
Well, it could have been worse. If I'd been any closer to that phaser, it would have killed me.
Well, don't take this the wrong way, but that was the plan.
I understand.
See you around.
All right, everybody. So, if you enjoyed the content today, you can support the show at patreon.com/thepenskyfile. $2 a month, you get extra stuff. This is normally where I give the shout out to the Captain tier supporters. Unfortunately, I'm in such a half-assed recording setup right now. I can't pull it up and read to you, but I will want to say that if you guys like the Orville, we're not going to be doing a full coverage of the Orville, but we are going to be doing a special offer on Patreon. If you're a member of the $5 or up tier by June 5th, you're going to get exclusive access to 4 of our Orville episodes that we're going to cover. We're going to be doing 4 of the episodes of Orville, seasons 1 and 2, and then we'll be releasing them privately. They're never going to be available publicly to the $5 and up patrons on patreon.com/thepenskyfile. So key details here. Join Patreon at the $5 level by June 5th, and you get Orville episodes. That's about it. So
the Orville, more like the Snorville.
Or maybe when it's over, you'll be saying, please give me some Moreville. No,
I'm gonna have a new one of these every time for this segment up until we actually do it. I'm gonna run out real quick.
We're gonna have to get together and eat some S'morevilles while we watch these episodes. All right, so
we could watch them at the Shoreville.
Let's read the patron thoughts. If you support the show on patreon.com/thepenskyfile, in addition to getting Orville episodes, you can leave your thoughts about upcoming Star Trek episodes. Captain Quark says, Empok Nor. The technical aspects of this episode are great. The station set, as always, looks appropriately claustrophobic and creepy in dark lighting. I also enjoyed the idea of old soldiers never truly being able to put down a gun. That being said, the plot was fairly cliche and predictable. As soon as we know the engineer security personnel, we know that they will only serve as cannon fodder. The episode is really just spinning its wheels. The Cardassians and Garak kill all of them off. Spinning its wheels until Cardassians and Garak kill them all off. I liked how O'Brien used his engineering skills to neutralize Garak, but I'm not sure he would have accomplished this if Garak didn't behave exactly the way he did in their final confrontation. Also, my
favorite part of this episode was when Garak decides to take like 20 minutes and finds a bunch of abandoned Cirque du Soleil harnesses and just straps all the dead guys and just hangs them like puppets.
Yep. Yeah,
that was fairly cheeky for a guy who's on killing drugs.
Yeah, I mean, and that's kind of like the Star Trekification of the slasher thing, where normally they'd be on meat hooks or something interesting, and instead it's just he just tied them up to the ceiling for no reason. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's weird. Also, mind drug or not, you'd think there would be some consequences for Garak's actions. You would think there would be. There's not going to be. I apologize. I have to scroll through these things. Let's see here. What is this called? Empok Nor. You people didn't leave your comments in alphabetical order. Empok Nor from Holly McLaughlin. Holly says, this one is fantastic. Garak's struggle against the effects of the drug and in favor of his best self is all the more poignant for the ways in which he loses it. It's dark and creepy and scary in just the right balance. Nog and O'Brien are especially good in this one. Empok Nor. Next comment is Captain Quark. Didn't you already read some? I thought we already left one. I'll read this one anyway. Despite some foreboding set design, this episode was rather predictable and bland. The 4 non-reoccurring crewmen might have well had targets painted on their heads. Mind-altering drug or not, I think there should have been some more serious consequences for Garak other than the cursory shit happens conclusion. After all, he did kill a fellow crewman with a power tool. I liked how O'Brien used his engineering skills to defeat Garak, but I'm not sure it would have succeeded if his plan hadn't played out exactly as it did. I think you left the same comment twice, which is an interesting... Next one is... I'm scrolling through my phone.
Get it together, people.
I'm scrolling through my phone like a goddamn...
But we won't be covering the Orville. We'll be taking a detourville.
We're going to get deep into the Loreville of Star Trek instead. Empok Nor. Will Yates says, a good thriller episode in which the lighting was used to superb effect. In particular, when the rifle light shines on Garak and the drug really takes over. And then yet again when O'Brien realizes what's going on and what he has to do. The way they squared off at the end was really well done too, since I remember hearing somewhere that only amateurs fight with closed fists in martial arts. Miles must have been some kind of badass with a serious weaponry during the war, because a regiment today is anywhere between 1,000 and 5,000 strong. Despite the great character work done for Garak and O'Brien, I think the episode does really does the service to Nog more than anyone else, and shows his growth beyond the standard Ferengi tropes. Ted from Marketing says, a group of red/yellow shirts join O'Brien on a dangerous mission. I wonder what's going to happen to them. At first I thought this might be like Lower Decks, where we'd get to learn a little bit about them, but I quickly came to the conclusion that these red shirts weren't long for this world. The episode sets up very well with Nog's discovery of the runabout floating away. Turning Garak evil, while somewhat unexpected, doesn't really enhance the suspense or increase the stakes very much. I think you can completely do without the psychotropic drug and just have the crew fight the 2 or more Cardassians, with Garak trying to outthink everyone at different points. There's your idea, Clay. Overall, the episode was enjoyable, though, with the lighting reminding me a little bit of the Game of Thrones episode. We can't, but it's effective, I suppose. Thank you, patrons, for...
Where's that Starbucks cup? Am I right?
They took it out already. They took it out of the digital stream. Cowards. That's it. Thank you, patrons, for leaving thoughts. We're a little bit of ahead of game, so not everyone left. The usual people didn't leave their comments, but it's much appreciated anyway. Thank you for supporting the show on Patreon, and thank you for leaving your thoughts. Clay, what are you going to say about Empok Nor on our scale of 1 to 5?
I don't know. Part of me says low 3, but I feel like I've been given a lot of 3s lately. I might go 2 on this one.
It's a 2 for me. I feel fine saying it's a 2. It's by definition, my 2 is things that are okay, but could have had a little, like, it could have been had a little bit of pop if they just sorted out what they were trying to talk about or trying to do with it. And I think that's pretty much this one.
Yeah.
We've talked before, about O'Brien kind of has weird stories in DS9 a lot of the time. Like, some of them are pretty effective and some of them feel like they're kind of goofy. To me, he kind of reminds me a little bit of how Beverly Crusher episodes went in The Next Generation, where she was a little bit all over the place. You know what I mean? Like, her stories were either like hard sci-fi or like murder mysteries, or she's having sex with a ghost or something like that. And
yeah.
And O'Brien, while he hasn't had sex with a ghost yet, his O'Brien, I guess what I'm saying is O'Brien feels like the character who, when the writers are unsure whose story this should be, they kind of default to O'Brien in that situation.
Yeah. I mean, I'm hoping, fingers crossed, that sometime in the next 2 seasons he goes home to Ireland and they're like, oh, by the way, Ireland is now Scotland. Here, put this candle.
Well, maybe would him going back to Ireland be Star Trek's Rambo? Would it be like taken over by Cardassians and he would just get home and no one respects him and everything's gone wrong?
As long as there's a sexy candle ghost, he can do whatever he wants.
That's true. I'm gonna give
little known fact about the Star Trek universe: Ireland is actually now Scotland.
They're basically touching. I'm going to give it a 2. Clay will give it a 2 as well. I think that's fair. We have 2 more episodes to go. We've got In the Cards, and then we have Call to Arms as the season finale. We're almost done with season 5. Thank you guys very much for listening. Thank you for supporting the show. You can follow all the social media links down below, Facebook, Twitter, Discord. You can go to patreon.com/thepenskyfile if you want to support the show. Remember the Orville, if you want some Orville. We've already done that, but you can go there if you want to join the $5 tier. You get some Orville episodes. Clay, do you have anything you want to say before we call this one a day?
I don't think so. If you read The Raven, you'll hear all about Lenoreville. Did you already say Snorville? I think you did. That was your first one, wasn't it? Yeah, that was your first one. That's what brought us down this dark path to begin with.
I think I'll just call it a day
path
there.
I'm sure everybody abhorvilles.
That one's not actually too bad. I think we ended pretty strong there if we're going to go out with that one. I think that's it. Thank you guys for listening. I apologize about the sort of roughshod recording studio that I've got going here. Hopefully it'll sound okay, but we'll be back.
Pirate radio, man.
I know, that's true. I've got my little ham transistor radio going. I'm looking out at the
Now let me tell you my thoughts about North Korea.
Tune in to 87.3. It's really low on the dial, but that's where all the action happens. That's it. Guys, thank you very much for listening. We'll be back in a couple days with In the Cards. Hope you enjoyed the content, and see you later.